The loudest, the biggest, the brashest. New York is its own character in every play.
The bad thing about New York is the pressure. You're always under pressure.
Here are the stories about those plays. It's New York Accent with Damon Amendolara.
Welcome inside the latest episode of New York Accent, an Odyssey original podcast series as we delve into the stories, the personalities, the athletes, the coaches, the sports figures that had great moments in the city of New York. And our next guest not only had some great moments in the city of New York with the pinstripes on, but also is a legend in the sport, both on the field and off the field. We'll explain coming up here shortly. He played for the New York Yankees between 1979 and 1982, then came back in the late 80s with the Yankees as well, pitched in 3 World Series in a Dodgers-Yankees matchup on both sides of the fence. Joining us here on the show, Tommy John. Tommy, how are you?
I'm fine. I had 2 4-year terms with Steinbrenner.
Was either one of them more successful than the other?
The first one was, by far.
Because the first one you guys went to the 1981 World Series, which we'll get into. It's funny, if you Google Tommy John, the first thing as a baseball fan, for me, thinking that's going to pop
underwear.
up is it's going to be the surgery, going to be your record, your baseball reference page, your Wikipedia. No, it's the underwear company. Did they name that underwear company after you?
No, the guy's name is Thomas Jonathan Patterson.
Oh, okay.
And he said when I was growing up, everybody called me Tommy John. And so that's what I went by. I went by, and then he started this company, Tommy John Underwear, and it's very, very, very expensive underwear that I have nothing to do with, and I get no money on it.
It's a melodic name, Tommy John. It just sounds good rolling off the tongue, and I have to imagine that maybe he didn't even know this, but he must have gotten his nickname based on your popularity, wouldn't you think?
Well, that's what I said. I started seeing how old he was, and when he was out there playing and all, that's when I was in my prime, and my name was out on the sports pages and the TV every night, and he picked it up like that. So, God bless him. He's a good businessman.
Do you at least get free underwear?
Any money.
Do you at least get free underwear?
Nope.
Nah. Come on, Tommy John. Underwear. Hook up the real Tommy John with some free undies at the very least.
If I were back in New York right now and these underwear, they came out, I would get one of my friends that has the nose that bent like that and say, "Hey, Goomba." And I would be getting something from him, that I can guarantee you.
So you got a buddy in New York, because you know people who know people after you played in New York that could go make something happen if you needed something to happen.
That's right.
you know a guy. You know a guy that knows a guy. Well, your story begins in Terre Haute, Indiana, as you're growing up in the 1950s. Right. I have to imagine that must have been an amazing childhood. What was your youth like in Indiana back in the 50s?
Basketball.
Wow.
I mean, we played baseball, but baseball was what you did in between basketball seasons. And basketball was the sport in Indiana. And I played it. And my dad, I knew it was time to start practicing basketball because my dad would be taking out his summer garden. And I knew, okay, then I got my buddies over and we would stomp the dirt. And then we just bounce a basketball. And my sister's 6 years older than me. And she's very, very, very pretty. And needless to say, she had a lot of guys trailing her, and they would come over and they'd play basketball. Well, if you're going to play basketball in my backyard, I'm going to be part of it. Nice. So I learned to play basketball by playing with older guys, which really helped.
Did you dream of playing for the Hoosiers or Indiana State or a college basketball team in the state?
I had 50 scholarship offers in
Wow.
basketball.
Wow.
And I had 1 in baseball. University of Illinois offered me a baseball scholarship, and the baseball coach said, we're going to let you go. You can try to play basketball here. Because most of the time, if you go on another sport scholarship, they want you to honor that scholarship full time.
Right.
And so Illinois was going to let me play basketball, but, I wasn't great, but I was good. I played, the guys I played with, were Tom and Dick Van Arsdale.
Great players. Yeah, those are
very
great
good.
athletes.
The twins,
Yeah.
And then a guy named Ron Reed. Ron was from LaPorte, Indiana, and I think he went to Notre Dame, was it? But he ended up playing in the NBA for a little while.
You end up going into baseball and you begin your career with the Cleveland Indians, and then you end up with the White Sox. And I want to ask you about 1968 because that's your first breakthrough season. You get named to the All-Star game. You have double-digit wins that season, and your ERA is a microscopic sub-2 1.98. Now, that's an incredible ERA no matter what, but that really stands out. And that's the year that Bob Gibson has the great pitching season. Danny McClain wins 30 games, the last time anybody's done that. And then they raise the mound after 1968. What was it about that? I'm sorry, they lowered the mound. Yeah. What was it about in 68 that gave you such success? And what was it about the summer that helped pitching dominate so much?
Well, I think the mound at that time was 15 inches, I think, from where the rubber was to where home plate was. So you're throwing on a downward angle like that. And it just made it easier to pitch, and guys would swing the bat, and I didn't strike out many. So they're hitting balls on me, and I needed good defense, especially infield.
You do a great podcast series on both YouTube as well called Rubbing Elbows. Right. And the most recent episode that I saw was with Johnny Bench.
Yes.
And you were discussing with Johnny your velocity, and he said you had a pretty good fastball, but you didn't really choose to use it much. And you said, yeah, I could have topped out at 90, 91, but you decided to pitch between 85 and 87 or so. That's that control that you're talking about right there.
Yes.
Why was it that you didn't feel, even in your youth, that you needed to really let loose with your fastball?
Because I was getting guys out with my less than fast fastball. And the Cincinnati Reds, they thought I was always doing something to the baseball. Cutting it or scuffing it or whatever. So whenever I pitched against them, I had my glove here, and I would go in and I would move my hand around it, and they would come out, check the ball, check the ball, check the ball. So I'd throw the ball in, the umpire would look at it, throw it back to me, and I'd do it again. Check the ball, check the ball. And they were worried more about what I was doing to the ball rather than worrying about what I was doing to them.
And this is the big red machine with all.
Huh?
This is the big red machine with all of those Hall of Fame hitters that are all worried about you.
Yes, I know it. But it was fun playing with them like that. It was fun. Yeah, it was fun.
So you just did it out of an economy of effort. You could pitch faster, but you just knew, hey, if I didn't have to unload my full chamber of speed, velocity,
right?
Why bother with it? It helps.
Well,
it helps
if
my
I'm
arm.
getting batters out with my sinker and my curveball, why do I want to throw something harder that would straighten my fastball out? I wanted the ball to move all the time. The more it would move, the better it was.
And that ends up being such a huge part of how, after the surgery, you have this incredible career. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
You end up with the Dodgers, and now things finally have clicked in. You have a series of seasons in the mid-'70s, which you're really, really flying right there. You go to the Dodgers, you win 11 games in 72. In 73, go 16-7. 74, 13-3, you're cruising along. And in 73 is now the infamous injury. But let's go back. You had suffered before that injury an elbow injury, didn't you, 2 years earlier in 72?
Well, I had bone chips, and they were in the joint, and it was killing me. And so Dr. Job operated on me, took the chips out, and I went back and I pitched. Yeah.
Did that factor in at all to when you had your ultimate injury 2 years later or a year and a half later that led to the quote-unquote Tommy John surgery, or that was totally separate?
Yeah.
Okay, so 13-3, and you're cruising along in this great season for the Dodgers in 73, and then describe to us the moment that you let that pitch go and what it feels like in your arm and shoulder.
And right as I came forward, and the ball just kind of blooped up to the plate. And I went, okay, got the ball back. Same pain. I went, this is not right. I walked off the mound, and Walt Alston's coming out. I said, Walter, I've hurt my arm. Get somebody else in there. And I go over to our trainer, and I said, Billy, get Dr. Job. He said, Tommy, I've already signaled him.
Wow.
And Job was down, met me in the clubhouse. You know, I changed shirts and got a dry undershirt on. And he said, why don't you got all these people here that want to talk to you, the press, the TV, the radio. Why don't you come see me tomorrow after lunch, because my last surgery is at 1:00. I'll be in my office around 2:00. I said, okay. So I went over there and I met him at his office, and he checked me out. Well, you see, back then, 1974, there were no MRIs. They just had X-ray. Well, all X-ray is going to do is show you that you have a solid bone or you have a broken bone or you got chips. But Job could take my arm and go, eat, and move it while holding my upper arm solid, steady. And he went, whoa. I'm what? He said, this shouldn't happen. He said, I want you to go see this orthopedic. His name is Herb Stark. And he's done a lot of ligament replacement. He said, I think you've torn the ligament. So I go to see Dr. Stark, and he's from Tennessee. And he goes, boy, you sure done it, boy. He said, you'll never pitch again. I said, what? He said, you'll never pitch again. I said, what are you talking about? He said, yeah. I go. So he checked me. Yep, you did it. You tore the ligament. Okay, so I went back to see Dr. Job. I told him what Dr. Stark said, and he said, I don't think you've done it. But he said, why don't we just let it heal for about 8 weeks, and then you go and try to throw and see if you can withstand the rigors of pitching. I said, okay. And I tried it, and son of a gun, it just wouldn't work. And it didn't hurt like the first time I tore it, but it just didn't feel right.
You had already had more than a decade in Major League Baseball. You were 32 years old.
Right.
At this point, how much of this did you just weigh, you know what, that's it. I had a good career and I'm going to retire on this. Was that ever a thought in your brain?
Never.
Wow.
Never. I wanted to pitch. I love to pitch. And I was not going to go out like that.
So it was about, you didn't want the sport taken away from you. If you were going to leave, you were going to do it on your own.
I was going to do it on my own terms. Right.
On your own terms.
Yeah.
So this is the first time. Is this the first time the surgery is performed, or the first time a baseball player comes back successfully from it?
The first time it was performed on a major league pitcher. The transplant surgery had been done, and Joe had done a bunch of them on polio patients in the knees and ankles, but he had never done it on a pitcher who, you make your living throwing a baseball.
So is there a moment in there where you are worried, hey, this is the first time this is happening on a Major League Baseball pitcher, this might not go well and my career might be done? Or did you never allow doubt to creep in?
Never allowed doubt to creep in. I was going to pitch again. If I had to throw the ball underhanded, I was going to pitch.
So that was the attitude. And at what point in your procedure and your rehab do you feel confident, hey, you know what, this worked?
Well, when Dr. Joe gave me the okay to start throwing again, I started out throwing to my wife, just throwing balls in our backyard. And then I moved up to my neighbor, who was a softball player, and I threw to him. And then I went to spring training, and down in Vero Beach, they have a wall. I could show you the wall right now. It was on the way from the old clubhouse to Holman Stadium, where we played our games. And every morning I'd go out there with 6 baseballs, put the bucket down, throw against the wall. And so how hard can you throw against the wall? I just threw. I threw, and how many throws? I don't know. I threw until I got tired. And then I would go in and I'd ice my elbow down and we'd do all this stuff. And next morning I'd be back out there again. And next day I'd be back out there again. And I threw to that wall 6 out of the 7 days. And the 7th day was Sunday. And my reasoning on that was, if God rested on Sunday, so can Tommy John.
This is the entire 1975 season.
Right.
You are out.
Right.
You end up having a career that lasts from 76 all the way through 89. I would have to imagine even the most optimistic surgeon, medical professional, team official could never have predicted you could have pitched until 46 years old. What were their estimates in how long you might be able to pitch if it worked?
They never said, because they didn't know. And if you're a good doctor, if you don't know, you just let the dummy like me go out there and throw the ball, and he'll tell you when he can't pitch anymore. And that's what I did. And I pitched till 1979, and I really believe I could have pitched longer, but Dallas Green had this thing in his head that Tommy John shouldn't be on the baseball field. I should be doing something else.
Oh, that's so interesting. You pitch after the surgery from 76 through 89. You retire after the 89 season with the Yankees. Right. Dallas Green is with the Yankees. And so he basically said, we don't want you back?
1988, he takes the job, and he calls me up and tells me I'm too old. And I said, Dallas, I really don't think so. I pitched pretty decently. You're 46 years old. You should be out playing golf. You should be mowing your backyard. You shouldn't be playing baseball. Baseball's a young man's sport. And everything was negative. So I called Steinbrenner. I said, George, Dallas doesn't think I can pitch. He said, you leave that to me. I'll take care of Dallas. And he did, but Dallas always had his hand on the switch that sucked me down on the. He didn't think I could pitch and let me know it. And as a result, I pitched like I shouldn't be out there.
Huh. So that was 88. You go 9-8 with a 4.49 ERA. 89. You're 46 years old. You pitch. You go 2-7 with a 5.80 ERA. And you're saying that final season, 46 years old, it was a negative situation, so it affected you on the field.
Yes, it did. If I would have had somebody out there that would have said, "Hey, Tommy, let's go. We can go. Let's go." Boom, boom. I really, really believe I would have pitched better.
Well, your career after the surgery is exemplary because in 76, you're finding your footing. You're a 500 pitcher, 10-10, but it's amazing. You come back and you pitch a full season. By 77, you go on your greatest run of your career, 77, 78, 79 to 80. There are 3 All-Star game appearances in there. There are 2 World Series with the Los Angeles Dodgers. You're pitching against the Yankees. You win 20 games, 3 of those 4 years. It's extraordinary. Is it fair to say you were better as a pitcher after the surgery?
Yeah, I think I understood what I had to do to be effective. I mean, I didn't throw harder, but I think I threw better.
In 77, you guys make the World Series against the Yankees. Game 6, World Series, the Bronx, Reggie Jackson. Okay, so tell me about watching Reggie dash the hopes of you guys with those 3 long balls.
Well, Reggie can do it. And, I've seen him before, but those were awesome. I mean, those are just awesome.
Reggie was known as a hot dog. You've ended up having quite a nice friendship with Reggie over the years. But at the time, when he hits 3 home runs in 77, is it one of those things that's really abrasive, really annoying because you see him as a hot dog?
Nope. He just crushed the ball, and he ran around the bases the way you're supposed to. He didn't skip or do flips or whatever. He just trotted around but Reggie could do a lot of things, and hitting home runs was one of them.
He was amazing that series. He was amazing in the postseason in general. You guys get back in 78. You lose again to the Yankees. At this point in time, are you developing quite a distaste for the Yankees?
No. I enjoyed pitching against them. I thought it was fun. And,
Well, you end up signing with them. You are a free agent.
Right.
There's a couple of other offers that come your way, and you say, no, I want to play for a winner. So you end up deciding to sign with the Yankees. How much of that was George getting involved? Did you have conversations with George, and he offered you a deal?
My agent had conversations with Al Rosen. Al was the general manager. And so obviously he's getting his cues from Steinbrenner, but Al Rosen was a baseball player. And I remember when we signed, we flew to New York. My agent, his wife, my wife, and me flew in. Al Rosen and Steinbrenner met us at the airport. And George Steinbrenner, how are you? Go. Rosen, let's go. Well, and he took off, and he's 20 feet in front of us walking through the airport. And I look at my agent, and I said, Bob, is this the way it's going to be? And Rosen says, nah, George was like this. He said, don't, just take him for what it is. But George was a good owner. I loved playing for him. I really did. I loved playing for him.
It seemed like if you were a manager, he was on your back, but if you were a player, he really went to bat for you and just wanted to do whatever it took to win.
Right.
Is that what you appreciated about him?
Well, yeah, he could be a pain in your rear, but he was a good owner. He paid exceptionally well. And, so Yeah, I've just I used to go down and see him in the winter in Tampa. We'd go down and play in golf outings, and I'd stop by the ballpark and see George and see his wife, Joanne, and or Joan, and they had a good family.
You go from facing Reggie Jackson in the World Series to now being teammates with him. He was your first guest on Rubbing Elbows,
Right.
the show that you have. So clearly you have a friendship with him. What was it like being a teammate of Reggie?
But it was just like we had known each other all of our lives, and we hadn't. But Reggie's okay. Reggie's a good guy. But he liked doing them Reggie's way.
So what was it about Reggie that you connected so much with that you said it's like you knew each other your entire lives? You guys must have been kindred spirits in some way.
His personality. Yeah. That's, that, and he hit well when I pitched. I
That
well
helps.
when he hit.
One of the most tragic instances in baseball history is Thurman Munson passing away, and that obviously was with great heavy hearts that the Yankees themselves, everybody in New York, watch you guys come back onto the field. What was it like to try to compete after that and the memorial night where he's in everybody's minds, and it seemed to really pour itself out into the field as well?
Thurman was a good leader. He didn't, let's go. He didn't do any of that stuff. He just put his uniform on, went out and played. And I got the phone call on Thursday, an off day, from George, and George was crying, sobbing like a baby. And I said, "What's wrong, boss?" And he said, "Thurman died." I said, "What?" He said the plane crash and, blah, blah, blah. So then I called Jim Spencer, and he said, "Yeah, Tommy said somebody told me." And then the next day we go to the ballpark, and George is there, and he's still crying, and the guys are crying. And he said, "We're going to play, and we're going to play our asses off, and we're going to do it for Thurman." And then Greg Nettles got up and said some things, and Reggie said some things, and that's what the big guys are supposed to do. But Thurman was a good leader, really was a good leader.
Another difficult moment in your career was when your son, who was a toddler, fell out of a window at a vacation home, and this happened in the middle of the season.
Right.
And he fell on top of a parked car in the hood, but it braced his fall, but he was in a coma. And you get the news, and there's an outpouring of support from baseball, from people around the country for you. You asked for prayers and thoughts. Tell me about that moment, how you found out, and how you processed that in the middle of a season.
Well, I found out, my wife called me, and she was sobbing hysterically, and she said, "Travis fell, hit his head, and you got to get back here." And we were in Detroit at the time. And I had just played golf that morning with this friend of mine, and I knew he had a plane. And so I got back and I called him up, and I told him, I said, my son fell. We got to get him to the hospital, and I got to fly back to New York. Can I use your plane? And he said, "Absolutely." So we flew back, and we landed, I forget what airport it was, some small little airport in New Jersey. And my wife had the police there. They picked me up, put me in their car, took me down to Point Pleasant Hospital, and we saw him, and I got a chance to kiss him and tell him that I loved him and all that. And then the next day, they took him up to New York, And I had called a doctor friend of mine. I told him what happened, and he said, well, you've got to get to a good pediatric neurologist, neurosurgeon. I said, okay. He said, we have one of the best in the country here in this city, Fred Epstein. So at 6 o'clock the next morning, I called Fred Epstein at his home. Hello. I said, Dr. Epstein, yes? Tommy John, I was waiting for your call. I said, you were? He said, yes. What's your son? I said, well, he's like in a coma, whatever. Is he breathing on his own? Yes. Get him up here. Okay. So in New Jersey, they offer helicopter transportation. So they got Travis on the helicopter with a doctor and 2 or 3 nurses, and they had the IVs in him and all this. And my wife and I followed him in our own helicopter, not our own, but the one that we rented. And we landed at the heliport just down from the hospital. And Travis went in, and he was in a coma for, I don't know, 10 or 12 days. But it was a medically induced coma. And then they brought him out of it. And that fall, he was back. George wanted him to throw the first pitch out. And I said, sure. So I asked Trav, do you want to throw the first pitch out? Yeah. So what we did is we took a rubber baseball and we put red paint where the stitches would be, and we fooled the press because he couldn't throw a regular baseball. It was too heavy for him. So I asked Reggie, I said, hey, Reg, you were at the hospital almost every day. Would you take Travis? Because I was starting the game. I was the starting pitcher at Yankee Stadium. And
Wow.
I said, I can't take him out there. If I take him out there, I got to cut my throwing short and I'll be bawling like a baby. And I said, plus he knows you, he loves you, and Reggie said, Tommy, this is the biggest thrill of my life. Yes. He said,
wow.
And so he threw the pitch, and it was right to Rick Cerrone, boom, the rubber ball. And then Reggie picked him up and held him with his hand under his little butt, and he paraded him around and let 65,000 people, they were chanting, Travis, Travis, Travis. All the things I've done in baseball, that will be the one thing that will be in my mind forever, is how the Yankee fans treated that young boy.
Wow. And he made a full recovery.
Yeah.
That is just, it's an extraordinary story. And so you end your career with the Yankees in 1989, as we mentioned. You're 46 years old, and you retire with nearly 290 wins. And in terms of Hall of Fame numbers, that's one of the highest win totals not in Cooperstown. It would be up to the Veterans Committee now to put you in.
Right.
But I'm wondering, is that an honor that you still desire, or is that something that if it happens, but it doesn't really define your satisfaction with your career?
If it happens, it happens. I think I should have been in years ago, but for whatever reason, well, I know the reason, but I won't say it. There was one player was voting against me all the time and getting other players that, but be that as it may, I've got a guy that's in the Hall of Fame now that's going to be on the Hall of Fame on the Veterans Committee, and his name is Jim Cott. And he said, TJ, I'm going to politic for you like these guys do for Trump or for DeSantis or whatever. He said, I'm going to see that you get in the Hall of Fame. You should be in there before me. I said, Jim, whatever, I appreciate it. I said, but do what you have to do and let the chips fall where they may.
So the writers had the ballot for a number of years after you retired.
Right.
You got about 30-something% of the vote. You need to get 75%. Then it goes to the Veterans Committee, and that's where former players are on the board, the former executives, et cetera. It's there in the Veterans Committee that you know of somebody that was a former player, maybe an opponent or something, that didn't like you and tried to make sure you stayed out.
Yes.
Have you ever had words with that player?
No, he's dead now, so I can't.
Did you want to say, did you know it was going on when it was happening?
I did not. But I, there had to be a reason why I was not getting a lot of votes. Now, granted, a lot of guys they think that I didn't throw hard enough or I didn't strike enough guys out or whatever. But I had a pretty damn good, I had 288 wins. That's a lot of wins. But here's the kicker. I had 188 no decisions.
Wow.
That's the most in baseball. That tells you right there that, you get a quarter of those and I've got 310 wins or whatever. But
so if this player didn't like you and he's passed away now, why do you hesitate to say his name?
Doesn't do any good. I would say his name if I thought my buddy in New York would take a hammer to his kneecaps.
Well, he's dead now, so I guess it doesn't matter.
You can't do it, right.
So what did this guy who politicked against you didn't like that you weren't dominant enough, or didn't like your attitude, or had something personal against you?
I think maybe all of the above. I don't know. But I got that from somebody that was on the committee, and they said, whenever we have our meetings, he goes in there and tells everything why you shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame.
Wow. What team did he play for?
I can't say.
Like, boy, that's bizarre that somebody would use all that energy to politic against somebody getting in.
I know it. Yeah.
Bizarre.
Yeah.
Well, you get to chat with former teammates, former opponents that you played with on Rubbing Elbows, which I think is really cool. Seems like you have such a good time with these guys. What's been the most enjoyable aspect to the series?
Just reliving our time in baseball, and like with Johnny Bench going against the Big Red Machine, I love pitching against them because they made me pitch better. And it's the way Boston, going against Boston, I love pitching against the Red Sox because they had the worst, horrible fans, the Red Sox and Philadelphia. But I love pitching that way because the fans, God, you suck fun right now. And that would just get my innards going, and it would percolate my blood.
The cast from your surgery and the Tommy John surgery went to Smithsonian. Did you get to go see it at the Smithsonian on display ever?
The Hall of Fame, probably I should have given it to Baseball Hall of Fame. But my thing to them is, what did you do for me to help me get into the Hall of Fame? And you want me to give you my cast for your thing here? And you didn't do anything to help me get in? No, that's not going to happen.
It's interesting that it's so commonly referred to now as Tommy John surgery. Right. I wonder if that would be the case if your name wasn't so easy to roll off the tongue. It's like, could we have called it the Andy Messersmith surgery? I mean, I feel like it's perfect because your name is very melodic and it's rhythmic, and well, I don't know. I think that carries some weight.
When Dr. Job, after the surgery, he he would go out and give lectures on doing the surgery. And the name of the surgery is the medial collateral ligament replacement surgery with the palmaris longus tendon. And he said that just got longer and longer and longer. And then I said, the surgery I did on Tommy John. And then I shortened it down, Tommy John surgery. And all the doctors said, oh, yeah. And so Dr. Job coined the operation. It should be the Frank Job surgery, but,
It's catchy.
Yes,
it's catchy, and everybody knows it as such. So you've got a giveaway coming up for fans as well, right? Yankee game tickets that you've got to give away?
Yeah, we've got an auction, a video Zoom that it's Yankee game August the 4th. It's Bucky Dent bobblehead day, August 4th. And we're going to auction off a video, and the money's going to a charity. And I don't know what charity it'll be. I'm leaning right now to Frank Siller and the Tunnels to Tower. Because, here's the thing. When the towers were hit by the planes, I was on the last plane that landed at a New York airport.
Wow.
I was coming up from Charlotte, and we were going to LaGuardia, and we were coming up, and we took a right-hand turn, went out over Long Island, came back to land on the runway, and the pilot says, whoa, look at that Twin Towers. There must be a grease fire, because look at all that smoke coming out of there. And everybody went over to the windows on the left side of the plane. Whoa, whoa. And we didn't know that a plane had hit it. And then we landed, and I said, something's going on. Because when you see the flight crew sprinting down the hallway, and you're walking this way and they're going this way, whoa, something's going on. So I call a friend of mine there, and his wife answered the phone. She goes, oh my God, Tommy, where are you? And I said, we're at LaGuardia. Oh, you didn't hear what happened? And she's crying hysterically, and her husband sends a friend to pick us up. And you start hearing what's going on. And the next day, we got to get home to Charlotte. Well, there's nothing going out of New York, I can tell you that. So I call a friend of mine with one of the rental car services. And I said, hey, this is Tommy John. He said, yeah, what? And I said, I need a car to go to Charlotte. I told him what happened, and he said, come on over tomorrow about 10, 11 o'clock. Okay. So we got over there, and we drove down to Charlotte that night, and New York to Charlotte, and got home, and I said, the bed has never felt so good. Because, all that was on was the towers and all the stuff that was happening. But, it's stuff like that happens for a reason. And I really think that God had something in store for us to make us better people.
And it's a solemn day that changed everybody's lives, no doubt about it.
Yes,
no doubt about it. Well, what a baseball life. I really enjoy your series, Rubbing Elbows. I think that's such a neat series to hear you chat.
That's the guy there. It's the guy that got it going.
Yeah, no, it's really it's really fun. It's a really fun watch.
Bullshit baseball, because baseball is a game that you watch. And although I don't watch baseball now,
Why not?
it's not the game I played. Analytics and the guys, and all that stuff. Come on. Throw the ball over the plate. They hit the ball. You catch the ball. You run the bases. And, but they're going all this. What's the launch angle and the velocity, the exit velocity? I don't know. Doesn't make any difference.
They made it too complicated, huh?
They put too much BS into the game.
They over-engineered it.
Yes, they did. Exactly. Yeah. Very good.
Tommy John, 288 victories. He is a 4-time All-Star, and he's lived one of the most incredible baseball lives ever. And so it's really an honor to have him here on the show. As he had just mentioned, there's an auction upcoming later on in the summer for Yankee fans. Also, check out his series, Rubbing Elbows, YouTube, and all places that you get your podcast as well.
Perfect. This
was so much fun. Tommy, thank you so much for the time today. And if I ever find the other Tommy John, I'm telling him to send you underwear ASAP.
I'm coming out with my own line.
Okay, hey, that's the one I'll be wearing.
From thong to long. All right, let's go.
That's excellent. Thank you, Tommy.
Hey,
you're the best.
Welcome. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoy New York Accent, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more episodes like this one. Also, if you want to watch more episodes of New York Accent, check out our playlist and let us know what you think in the comments below. Thanks again for watching, and we will see you for the next episode of New York Accent.